Good evening once again, and welcome to the day 2 of graphic design session by LTech Academy. My name is still Dominic, and I will still be your instructor for this class. Yesterday, we discussed about graphic design, who is a graphic designer, and then we look at the specialities within the graphic design instructor. My name is still Dominic Lawrence Henna, and I will be your instructor. Yesterday, I was not able to introduce myself with my picture, so I thought today you should see. Okay, so let's proceed to today's class. Today, we'll be looking at the elements of graphic design. Please, I would like you to follow me carefully. Don't speed yourself, don't fast forward. Please don't ignore it. I know most of us are fan of ignoring the theoretical aspect and then have more interest on the practical aspect. But this particular thing we'll be looking at today is the most important aspect of this entire training, because if you get this correctly, you will be different. You'll be on different level from ordinary graphic designer. This is what first upgrade you to professional levels. Before then, by application of more skills, you become a pro and a master. Even at the professional level, we have levels again. Okay, so the elements of graphic designs, actually these are what are used to create to create the designs. So the graphic part of graphic design, that is, yesterday, if you remember, we discussed two aspects of graphic design, that is the graphic and then the design. The graphic part talks about the visual element, which I told us yesterday that it is the building block of design. Now, the basic, and if you remember correctly, yesterday when I was talking about, okay, let's see it again. Yesterday when I was talking about the graphic, I made mention of something towards the end, which I said these are what makes up the visual elements of graphic design. All right, so back to this thing. Now, the elements that, see, there are a lot of elements that makes up that aspect of graphic design, but we have four, about to five basic, or five, let's say six basic elements. Now, they are not limited or restricted to this. You may come across some teachings that talk about just two, others three, others seven, others five, but we'll be talking about and six here, about 5 to 6. Now, this is, according to my belief, will be what are co-requirement to become a professional. This is based on my judgment as a graphic designer. It's not something that is standardized, but this is part of the basics one. So we'll be looking at the first one. We have is line, and then we have colors, and then we have shape and texture, and then white space, and then we have form and topography. Now, through the harness of our artistic expression, we choose this visual element and arrange them on a surface of layout to convey an idea, and this idea is what we call a graphic design. Please, like I said, if I'm fast, let me know. And also, after this video, this will be like the I'll try to see if I can break this video into two, so that it will be easier for you people to download. Okay, so we'll have part one of this and then part two of it. These are the only thing we'll be talking about today, and then tomorrow, sorry, in our next class, we begin practicals. All right, so let's look at lines. Now, these are marks connecting 2 points. They can be straight, curve, faulting, dash, pattern, etc. These are used to organize information. They play very, as minor as they sound, they play a very important role. Applying the touches of lines in designs makes the design very, very good. Let's look at this particular slide. It's a line that was used on the top three lines, and let's look at, just without them Imagine this particular slide, the design without these three lines, it will look somehow, but this line added something, added some feelings. Then they are also used to create grid chart etc. Please just read all the rest that are here. I'm just taking time to explain the important ones. The others are for your knowledge. No knowledge is waste. Okay, let's see more examples. Number one, we have a line that is connected at 3 points here, that is trying to look like a snake moving but in a straight line. Then we have number two, a straight vertical line, and then number three, we have a horizontal line. Now let's look at practical application of this line that I'm talking about, so that it will not just be theory. Now let the design by the right is a simple design which I did, I think, some times ago. And this design is basically made up of lines. You can see how lines play a major roles in this design, and how it made the design look good. Now these are how important jobs. I'm just saying I brought this design so that I will portray and explain more on the lines. Okay, so from time to time as a graphic designer, you must take advantage of these elements. They are what makes up design. Then the second thing, and one of the most important, is shape. Shape is practically the most important thing, especially if you are going to do, especially when we start Photoshop, you will see how they come in handy. They are almost the only thing that you can manipulate to give to come out with design. Not the only thing, but the most important and the most commonly used thing. So this has weight and width. It can be circles, triangles, squares, regular structure, etc, and many shapes. It can even be animals, plants, humans, etc. It can be abstract, that is icons, stylized figures, graphic illustration, images, etc. These are what makes up shapes in graphic design. You can see some of the example of them here. The guy in blue, in black shirt and with green, with it blue background. Then we have the triangle on top and the flower, and then the icon of Microsoft Word. Now these shapes are used to convey an idea or symbolize an idea. Okay, there is some belief around them. It is believed that when the shape is angular, you can actually, it's just that because only few females have ventured into graphic design. If not, these things are believed to convey the attribute of the graphic designer. It is believed that most angular shapes are used by a masculine, that is, it's kind of manly stuff, and then curve are mostly feminine. All right, please, if you have question while you are watching it, please, I will recommend you have a small jotter that you can be taking down your questions while you are going, so that at the end of it you can just forward your question. Because if you wait till the end of the session to see if there is a question, you might forget your question. All right, sorry. All right, still moving on. Let's look at some example of shapes. We have the rectangle, and then we have the circle and triangle. These are basically the basic shapes. With combination of this, you create other shapes easily. And then we have some shapes below them. All these shapes, especially the fifth one, that is the one below the circle, is used mostly in designs, as well as the fourth one. And all of them are basically important, and I'm sure you've come across some designs with these shapes. All right, the next thing is texture. Now this textures talks about the look or feel of the surface. It gives overall feel to something, provokes emotion. There are some designs that you look at it, you see that it is not actually pure. The color is not pure. There are some texture. I'm still calling texture. There are just some touches in the design. This texture can be used both in text and in shapes, and even on background. Now these touches are what, or feel on the surface of a designs, are what we call the textures. On skin texture, it is all these mark. I believe I said correctly. Now, if you Adimbi, you have, let's say, for those that will venture into photography, by the time you smoothen the face of an individual, you understand texture more and how it plays an important role. Now, this texture makes the design looks more real, especially when you're editing pictures as a photographer. This texture makes the person looks real. Then the next thing is size. Now, this is how large or small something is. The larger items indicate more important and attracts attention, and then add contrast between image, and then it also can be used to give impression of 3D designs. We'll look at that, how to manipulate 3D shapes. Then spacing, these are distance around or between things, especially white for beginners. I would recommend, if you are using colors, take advantage of white space. It really gives an add designs to designs more maturity, because simplicity is the key, is one of the most important key in having a very good design and professional design. Then we have the colors. This is combination of red and blue. They are used to highlight and attract eyes. We are already familiar with this. Designs in graphics, so CorelDRAW and Photoshop allows you to manipulate colors accordingly to your choice, and this is an important aspect. Let me talk briefly here. And this is very, very important in the sense that most people, where they get things wrong is they they make they do, is it what we call color riot. This is what basically destroys designs. In reality, there are some colors that goes together with another. There are some colors, especially when for decoration people, colors that rhyme. Now in graphics, is a bit different. Some colors goes together in the reality, but in designs they don't flow together. Just like you carry design yellow and black. In reality, yellow and black can go, but in graphic design, it doesn't go well. The arrangement matters. It can actually be arranged to go well by a professional, but as a beginner, there are some rules you have to follow. Especially, let's talk about the black and yellow. If you use black on yellow background, the design will be somehow a little bit odd. But if you use odd background, black background, and then maybe text, your text over some shapes, you give them yellow, it may fit in a little bit more. Then, okay, so like I said, I was going to divide the video into two, but before we go, I'll talk about it creates mood. Now, if your colors in designs are very, very rough, it sends an off. It doesn't really matter what skills you use in your designs, whether you trim perfectly, whether the shapes you use are good, as long as you don't get the color aspect, your design goes off. And as such, as a beginner, and for this our course, I will recommend the use of not more than 3 to 4 color at worst, at maximum. As a beginner, when you are starting with design, know this. It will help you a lot. As you grow, you yourself, you know that yes, I've reached a certain stage that I can add 1 more color, 2 more colors, 3 more colors. So use of too many colors for beginners is very, very disadvantageous, if the word is correct. All right, so please take note of it. Don't use too many colors in a design. It gives off message to people. It kills the mood. Design carry this atmosphere. When you see design, you say, oh god, this design is superb. And you see some design, you say, even by the look of it, your eyes are already penning you. And this is mostly has to do with color. And then we look at something we call contrast and balance in the principle in our next video. All right. And then also at the last point, it provoke emotions. Colors does a lot of things. It is basically design. It decide whether your design is worth looking or worth not paying attention to. So please, you can do some research on your time about colors in graphic design. All right, that is it for this video. We'll continue in the next video, and we'll be talking about the principles guiding graphic design.